cultural appropriation and appreciation. These are terms that are usually confused but is used in the zeitgeist of the fashion world and media in general. What are the difference between these two terms that people toe the line between and confuse? So we're going to be talking about that in today's video, so make sure you leave a like and you subscribe. So yo, your boy DD is definitely back in the house, so let's check this out. Cultural appropriation. So the term cultural vultures is used in hip hop a lot and it's coined by Dame Dash and Jay-Z publicly. So let's start with the definition here. So the standard of this argument is talking about why cultural appropriation is bad. So we got a definition from the dictionary and this is what it says. The unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption or adaptation of the costume practices, ideas, etc. of one people or society by members of another and typically more dominant people or society. So essentially, one group is taking culture or practices, religion, and basically using it without the permission of the other culture who created it and kind of making it something that is sacred, profane. So throughout history, we have seen this played out before by many groups in society that use things that they used to demonize and make fun of, and they use it for a profit. So essentially, this stems a lot from colonialism. Now, for my first time hearing this whole concept of cultural appropriation, it was a debate in grade 12. Before that, I never heard the term or the phrase before, but I've obviously seen it happen throughout history. And one example, because I am a black man, it happens a lot in black culture, especially in the arts. So, for example, music is the prime example that I can point to where it's been appropriated by a power structure. So they used to demonize this genre, whether it's jazz, blues, funk, or whatever, and then they turn it around, give it to a white person, and then they end up getting the credit for it, or they push us to the back burner. Now in fashion, it's quite similar. We're seeing a lot of journalists, activists, and public figures start to call out these fashion houses for appropriating, and it is necessary in the space. These cultures are being exploited, their practices, garments, and all these things that they hold dear to their heart are being used for collections, even though they may have deep religious ties to it or spiritual connections. In other cases, a lot of the times it's their hair, clothing, and people would get demonized for it. For example, a lot of black women got demonized for wearing braids or dreads, and then now you have different fashion houses using it on non-black models for accessories, or you have other white women attributing box braids and calling it boxer braids and saying that Kim Kardashian created that look, even though for generations and generations, black women were called ghetto for using those hairstyles that are akin to them specifically. And honestly, this is a complete slap in the face to the culture because you're stealing from them. Many cultures and subcultures get demonized, mocked, cursed, ridiculed by the power structure. And with that said, you shouldn't have a right to profit or be praised for something that you're stealing yet demonizing at the same time, or making it seem as though you created it. Pablo Picasso says a good artist copies, but a great artist steals. And if you look at the history of Eurocentrism in art and other disciplines, it tends to be a theme, or in other words, it tends to be their ethos. So now we're going to be talking about cultural appreciation. So obviously, this is the antithesis of being a vulture. Although the lines can be blurred at times and it can be tricky, the main thing is that you're appreciating the culture for what it is. So for example, you go to a food festival and you're trying different foods from different cultures, or you go to a cultural ceremony like a powwow, you get invited by your indigenous friend and then you go celebrate with them at their powwow. An example I see online that some people are for and other people are against. You can comment that down below which side you agree on. So sometimes it can get blurred where you can see a celebrity online taking or blatantly stealing from a culture and trying to rewrite the history, saying, no, this came from, I know they say this about braids, that, oh, that came from Viking culture, or this came from here, and you know for certain that's not true. You know you got it from this group of people here. So we constantly see that. Now, there are some examples where it's more of a spectrum thing. So, for instance, we have Adele at the Nottingham Carnival a few years ago. She was wearing a Jamaican bikini and Bantu nuts. Now, she's obviously married to, I think, Rich, which is one of LeBron's friends, childhood friends as well. And this one is more appreciation because you're wearing a costume at an event that celebrates Caribbean culture. Now, I would say the costume is fine. Okay, if you're gonna wear that just a random Tuesday, I would probably say that's more appropriation, but that's more appreciation. The Bantu knots is a little bit too much for me, but there were some people who are saying like she's appreciating West Indian culture. You guys can decide in the comments down below what you think about that. But for me, I would say the outfit's cool, but the hair, she doesn't need to, because Bantu knots is made for our hair specifically for our hair for a reason. You can't always use different hairstyles because the texture is different and is made for a different reason. So I would say it's a little bit excessive. But when brands like Gucci used to ridicule Dapper Dan in the late 80s and say that his style was ghetto and they don't want to be affiliated with him, and all of a sudden these high-end fashion brands are starting to talk about streetwear and talk about Dapper Dan, and you could argue that it's an apology, but is it really, or is it just that it's now marketable and that you can profit off streetwear now, and people from high-end fashion who love or are fans of it love streetwear, all the way down to people who were birthed in that ecosystem. So for me, I think they're just hopping on the bandwagon. But Vivienne Westwood is a prime example of someone from a culture bringing their culture to the top. So she is a part of the subculture of punk. She brought it to the high fashion spaces, and she's the one that pretty much was the curator for the Sex Pistols. I think back in the 60s they were popular, 70s in Britain, and she helped get that type of look to the mainstream. So in this case, I wouldn't think that would be appropriation because she's from the culture and she appreciates the culture as well. So Valentino is an example. They used braids on a non-black model. Gucci used a turban on a non-Hindu model. Marc Jacobs used dreads on one of his models as well. Givenchy used Latin archetypes and also from ancient Latin archetypes like the Aztecs, and use that stuff to make their brand more exotic. So here's basically a summary. You do not want to be a vulture. This is a result of colonialism, and it shows us that how damaging that was, because you can see it prevalent today. You can see the fruits of its labor today. It's our job to call brands out, call people out when we see these things arrive, and we want people to lean more on appreciation instead of appropriation. So this is the end of the video. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, and let me know down below certain things that I missed in this video, and we can have a discourse in the comment section down below. So with that said, this is your boy Darius D signing off once again. Y'all stay suave, live long, and prosper. You feel me?